Everybody, and welcome to this podcast and or video, depending on where you're watching. My name is Shawn from Geeks Weekly, and I am joined by my friends in creative industries. KG, also from Geeks Weekly, and
Uh,
our friend John, the Ginger Gorilla.
What's up?
We've come together today to discuss The Last of Us Part 2 in full spoilers. So if you have not played the game or watched it, please leave if you don't want spoilers. So with that said, we're going to get right on into the conversation. All right, so real quick, just as a refresher, I don't know how much you guys remember, but I'm just going to talk about the first game real quick, the ending, then we'll go right into part 2.
Yeah.
So the first game follows Joel and Ellie on a cross-country trip from Boston, I think it ends in Utah, to get Ellie, who has a cure and is immune to this whole mushroom zombie virus. We go on a killing spree through a hospital. We walk out with her, and she asks us, what happened? Why am I here? Why aren't the fireflies making a cure for me? Joel lies and says, wasn't possible. There was dozens of other kids that were immune. We left. She says, are you lying to me? He says, no. She says, okay, game ends. This one starts up, and we have Joel and Ellie. We see the flashbacks through the hospital, and now Joel is telling his brother Tommy, who he lives with, everything that happened. Things are kind of clearly not okay between Joel and Ellie. It was a little awkward at first. Joel teaches her guitar and plays Future Days by Pearl Jam. So what do we think of the opening of the game? Let's start with you, KG.
The intro of the game to me is like ridiculously powerful, and the way it just kind of grabs you. You can automatically tell the graphics have increased like tenfold. The way it just starts, the whole time I watched it, it was like a cinematic experience. It wasn't just a game. So I was enthralled from the first sentence of dialogue when he's cleaning the stringless guitar and he's telling him what he did. And the way I look at it, and I don't want to speak for you guys, but I have a feeling you're in the same boat. If you didn't really play the first game, when you play the second game, it's going to be a little harder for you to maybe connect with what is going on and like get invested, because to the game's credit, it heavily relies on you playing the first one. And this is like a part two. This isn't a sequel that borrows the same name and then goes and does something else with the characters. This is a true continuous story of that whole lineage that they're talking about. But the part that gets me crying every time is when they play Future Days. Just when you said the name, I was just going to start losing it. You can tell like how organic their relationship has grown. He comes in there, he's nervous. It's kind of like a middle-aged dad talking to his teenage daughter. Like, she doesn't want him around, and he's just kind of looking at the floor, puttering around. But when he starts to play, I was just like, well, these are the first round of tears of many. I can't really stop this anymore. And it only just continues from there in glorious fashion. But I think the intro up until like it does that time skip, and then you see Ellie 4 years later, and the game kind of like starts. I just think it's a great way to grab the player and say like, we're in for another ride. It's bigger. It's more like intense, and it's really just going to take you on a roller coaster of emotions from beginning to end. John, what were your thoughts on that intro?
I mean, I all my feelings that you guys have said, I felt too. But on top of it, I just finished the first game. Right before my playthrough of that game, I timed it up almost perfectly for the start of the second game. So it was all fresh, and I was excited because the fact with the first game is I got a little bored. I wanted to get through the story. That was still there. That urge was there. But it felt very repetitive. And immediately off the bat, this game just felt fresh. Like, without even any gameplay, I just got so excited. Maybe it was the revamp of graphics, like KG said. Just this story, I felt like from the very first scene, you could tell that the story was going to be so much heavier and so much deeper than the first game, and that just made me excited right off the bat, and I was just ready to jump in, and then we did, and it, like everyone said, it only got crazier from there. But you guys have basically said all my thoughts for that one, so yeah.
Shawn, what about you?
I definitely agreed with you, KG. Hearing that song immediately, I was like, "Wait, I think I know this song. I'm pretty sure this is a set." Oh, yeah! Wow, I'm crying. this is a sad song.
I'm already crying.
I'm
My
already
eyes are
crying.
sweating.
Yeah, and it's just a guy trying to reconnect with his not daughter. And then when he tells that dad joke right before he leaves her like little apartment, I was done. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm a
And you
mess.
knew he
Yeah.
knew the joke the whole time.
Oh,
He
for
was just
sure.
gauging how comfortable she was. And then when
Yeah.
he remembers, I was like, that's it. I can't do this. I gotta get out of here and just throw up. So sad.
I've also stolen that joke and made it my own thing.
Love it.
But that's just, my brand of humor.
So where do you guys consider the intro to end, by the way? Just like intro.
I would say.
You're good, John.
Oh, okay. I would say that the intro would end when you go out on your first, like when you meet up with Dina. Basically, I felt like that was you got your little intro, and now you're starting into the game, new characters, and your new experience just in general, because you didn't really get any of that from the first one. And just the gameplay from that, like as I said earlier, the gameplay from that point, you immediately realize, oh, this is the next level of the first game.
Yeah, I agree. I think once you leave Jackson, because you get to do a little bit of everything in Jackson. You walk through the bar, the little town area. You can find some collectibles. You get to do that snowball fight, and then you're out. So you've already gotten a taste of exploration and combat, and then you're good to go.
Yeah. No. Okay. Cool. I was pretty much in the same boat. It's like once you get your horse and then go, because then right after that, Shawn, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but right after that, it transfers. Like as you're leaving on the horse with Dina, it transfers to Abby, who we don't know at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which was, I mean, I don't know about you guys, or if we're jumping right into this, but I was so I wasn't confused, but I was like, where are they gonna go with this girl? Because obviously she's important. I'm playing as her, but then at the same point, I was like, wait, I'm still so new at the game. Am I just gonna be playing as a bunch of different people? I was like, I know she has to be somewhat important, but am I gonna have to play with as another character in this group? Like what's going on? And that made me excited again too. Obviously, the beginning of this game, I was just like, holy crap, this is so different, because going from the first one to this one, like right away, back to back, it's night and day. Like the graphics, just blew my mind, because the first one is like, what was it, PS3, then it got remastered for the PS4, which it's a remaster, you can't really do much with it. And then I personally haven't played that many solo games in between it. So the graphics that changed, I was like, oh, that was crazy. And then you get playing as Abby, and I was like, wait a second. And my mind immediately was like, okay, how's she gonna connect? And I thought, my first thought, and I'm just curious, and I've been waiting to ask you guys this. Did you think her and Ellie were gonna end up dating? Like right very beginning, my first thought was, oh, this is gonna be like Ellie, like they're gonna have a fling, and it's gonna make awkwardness between maybe Dina or something. Like that was my very, very first thought as soon as I saw Abby.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I just thought like
that's pretty interesting. I actually didn't think of that at all.
Immediately, I was like, how are they going to work her in? Because she's going to have to be important, but how is she going to be important in the game? And it would be a love interest.
Okay, so
I was very wrong.
Yeah, you're very wrong. But going off of that, that's
180.
definitely the next topic. Doing the patrol route as Ellie and Dina, and then cutting to Abby. So what did you guys think of that? And then John, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but did you have anything to add to that?
Like once again, I immediately into this game, I was like, I'm gonna search just for everything. I was trying to go in houses. I was like, there. Here's a house. I don't know if I could get in it. I'm gonna walk around it 5 times just to figure out. And it was just like, okay, can't get in it. Next house. And I was just so excited at the beginning that I was like, every nook and cranny, I found a baseball card or one of the trading cards, and I was like, yes, like I'm on my way. And then it was still just at the beginning of the game, and I know I've emphasized this like probably 5 times already, but just the graphics and walking through the snow and you see your footprints that are being left. I was like, the level of detail into this game is amazing, and that whole beginning section just pumped me up. And it just like it immediately hooked me, and I think they did an amazing job with that intro, and just teaching you how to play through that little experience that's not too great of stakes and not so deep into the story that like you have to concentrate on other things.
Yeah, I definitely agree. After the intro, like when it starts and you're on the horses, Ellie and Dina, I'm going to get into Abby's portion in a second. But for the Ellie and Dina portion in the beginning, I love the organic conversation that all the characters kind of have throughout. I think the developers do a really good job, and they did in the first game too, of allowing characters to like world build while you're doing things. I hate in a game where you like pick something up and it starts to talk, and then as soon as you hit circle, it just cuts. It's like, well, I wish you could have that playing. I mean, greedy gamer over here. I wish you could have that playing and talking while I'm also doing something, so that way I can auditorially pick that up while I'm continuing to play the game. But I think it's really cool that the characters really develop, and then the organic becomes super the relationship becomes super organic, and like I cared about these characters, even though I played the first game and I cared. Like Dina at first, I was like, maybe she's annoying. I don't know. Like we're gonna get into that whole Joel situation first, but I kind of thought what would happen to Joel would really happen to Dina, and I was like, would I care if it happened to Dina? And then as the game went on, I was like, maybe if it did, it may have the same weight because like she's a pretty badass character, and thank God in this game they finally had these side characters be able to fight. But I thought it was just interesting to like explore, and like you guys said, finding the trinkets. I don't know about you guys, but every time a level starts, I always turn around. I always go behind me. I try to find something in the back corner. Usually it happened, but I'm curious, Shawn, your opinion on when the game starts and you get to do like your first set of combat. It's as Abby, not Ellie. So what did you think about that and how it kind of played out for you? And then I guess we can kind of get into like combat gameplay from there. But I'm just curious, Shawn, what did you think about all of that in like the first part of the game?
So immediately, you could tell that Abby was like jacked,
Huge.
But once like when you play as Ellie, especially in like The Last of Us Part 1, she was just a lot of jumping on people and stabbing with her switchblade. Abby immediately just pieces up an infected. Like,
dude,
throws
she's
a
got
punch,
bigger
throws
arms
it.
than the Rock.
Yeah, it was insane. So immediately I felt the weight of her combat and was like, oh, this is weird. This is so different. And then you jump back to Ellie and I'm just like running, hiding, and stabbing.
Yeah.
But playing as Abby was very interesting. Did you guys watch any of the trailers for this game?
I didn't. I may have. I don't remember seeing Abby in the trailer, so that's why I don't know if I did. I may have seen like teaser things, but I don't remember seeing the whole Abby thing where.
Okay.
Because I know you talked about it.
I think there's one trailer that we all saw like years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I barely remembered it till like Shawn brought it up a week or two ago, where I think it's Abby and one of the scars in the rain, right?
Yeah.
Because I saw that trailer and I was like, I don't know what this game is about. I know it's a sequel to the first game, but I didn't see Ellie. I didn't see Joel. I don't know what is going on, but I gotta get it.
Yeah.
And then trailers after that, I only watched like 30-second clips where she's playing the guitar. But other than that, I just tried to dodge them all together.
I saw two. There's the first trailer with Ellie playing guitar and Joel walks through a house and there's just dead bodies everywhere. And then there's one which I'm now realizing was Abby, but it's from a gameplay section far later in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was playing as Abby, I had no idea what was happening. Like I didn't connect it to that trailer at all.
Yeah.
So it was exciting to play as her. But once she mentioned that she was looking for someone, did you guys immediately connect that it was Joel?
No, I thought it was.
No idea.
I thought it was gonna be. I knew they were looking for someone, and I knew it was gonna be someone in Jackson. I thought it was gonna be Ellie, because I thought then there was gonna be a myth of this girl who's immune, and now they're searching for that girl because maybe they have doctors, or maybe for some evil. Like I don't know. I didn't know where they were going with this game, so I was just like, oh, interesting. But then they were like said something. Then when they met with people, they said they were going south. So that totally just threw my mind off of any scent. And I was like, oh, but maybe they are decent people. Well, I mean, maybe they're just going to join the community. And we're fighting against something else. And then...
Oh, they took that double-barrel shotgun to our boy's knee.
Oh.
Yeah, so I immediately had bad feelings when she got to that argument of Owen, like, we have to find him.
Mm-hmm.
And in my head, I was like, oh, she's talking about Joel. I just looked through my phone. John, you had texted me at about 11:53 on the day of the game's release.
Yeah.
Did you start playing yet? I said yes. Just left to check out the trails with Dina. Couple hours later, 1:14. Bro, am I going to play as Abby as she tries to kill Joel? 4 hours later. Oh shit.
I love it. I love it.
So I was able to put together that she was there for Joel, which again brings us into the major discussion of at least the first part of the game. That murder, man.
Dude, it blew my mind.
Talk
First of
about
all,
an execution.
once again, going back to my obsession of graphics, holy shit, when they blow his knee apart and you just see the tendons hanging, I was like,
yeah.
I didn't even know this was possible in video games, but this game is going there and it's gonna be wild.
I audibly exploded
But
when they
also-
shot him in the knee. Because, like, you hit Tommy in the head, okay. Like, I thought maybe they would shoot him in the shoulder or maybe take a bat to him or something. A shotgun to the knee. As soon as that happened, the first thing I
That's-
think of was like, how do you wrap that up? How do
Well,
you cut that off? How did you walk?
That too, and I was like,
done.
even if they are able to save his like stub, I'm like, that's a death sentence in an infected world. I was like, but then maybe if he gets back into Jackson somehow, then he could still just do stuff around town, make his keep that way. And I was like, my brain would just go as soon as they shot him in the leg. I was like, oh crap, Ellie has to go get Joel. Like I still didn't anticipate they're killing Joel. I went, oh, Ellie's gonna have to go rescue him. They're gonna take him with them, and Ellie's gonna have to go get him. And I was like, it's gonna be a saving mission, and it's gonna be funny because Joel was doing the whole saving the first time. Now, maybe halfway through the game you get Joel. The other half you have to get out, and you're gonna have to do all the heavy lifting as Ellie. Where the first game it was Joel doing the heavy lifting, and Ellie was just following basically. And I was like, oh, what a nice wrap. Once again, dead wrong. I didn't see anything coming in this game ever.
Literally.
Too soon, Shawn. Too soon.
Yeah. What about you, KG? What were your thoughts?
I mean, I thought that Dina was going to be the one who got killed. When I saw like the second trailer and I think Dina was in there, I thought she was the one who would die. And then Joel and you would go, and as John mentioned, like Ellie would take charge. Joel is old. He would be in the back like, good shot, whatever. But when he gets blown out in the knee, when his football career is over, I freak out and then I say, wait, they're going to kill him. Like, that's it. He's going to die now. And I think the way the game sets it up, and I know a lot of people have issues with it, and we're probably going to get into it a little later. I personally really liked how you play as Abby and Ellie in the beginning. The dynamic of it changes a little bit, which we'll get into as you play more of the game later. But in the beginning, I think it's genius that they have you find Joel, or Joel, I guess, find you. You work together in order to get them back.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're like, hey, you guys can come with us and gear up before you leave, they're like, oh, thanks. In the knee. I was so blown away because the first game and the second game does a really good job of letting the characters do what they're going to do and then make you as the player live with the decision.
Yeah, there's no stopping it. It's just, it happened and now you have to react.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's like Red Dead will give you choices and GTA gives you choices, but at the end of the day, it's like you have a morale meter, and when you beat the game, maybe you get a different ending, but I don't really ever feel like I've had choice in a game where like everything changed.
Mm-hmm.
I just love playing a game that's so story driven. It's like you're watching a great movie and you want a character to do something, but they just won't because it's that character's character. It's their ideals and whatever coming to fruition. So when you're Abby and you shoot him in the leg, I'm like, I didn't hit R2. I didn't hit square. I don't want to do that. And then he's down, and then it shifts to Ellie the whole time. Like, she doesn't know. I know. I have to get her to figure that out. I have to in a different way, tell her, and this is going to break my heart. I can't do this. I'm turning off the game. I don't want to play anymore.
Hold it together. Hold it together. Don't let her find out through you. You're not the person to tell her.
And the difference between their days, like Abby is running through the mountains, almost gets killed by a horde, which I didn't know existed in this world, gets saved, blows out Joel's kneecap. Ellie, on a routine clearing out of trails, gets high as hell, makes out with her best friend, and now finds out her dad is dead.
Hey, we don't know if they stopped at making out, Shawn. Let's just make that very clear.
Look, I'm pretty clear
man.
that they didn't.
We saw
just
other
stop
things in
there.
this game. I'm just saying.
You know, shout out them for having a good time. All right, it's the end of the
Yeah.
board.
Yeah, they didn't know. They didn't know what was going on.
I do like, though, Shawn, you point out like the stark differences in the beginning of that game because Ellie's way chiller. Do you ever use your weapon? Maybe there's one small combat situation. Yeah, I think you have to like get into a room or something. But as Abby, like, you're dodging right away. I was playing on the harder difficulty because I'm a jerk. I died the first time. I wasn't ready for 4 of them coming at me.
I died 3 times as her because you're running from like a herd.
And I made the wrong turn?
I didn't know where to go. I'm like staring at a frozen waterfall, and I was like, "What's happening?"
And they're like, "Oh, over here." I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm bit. I'm done."
Yeah.
And it does the beautiful zoom-in graphic with your face getting ripped off.
Yeah, Ellie does have combat. She clears out that little supermarket area.
Yes.
But it's very reminiscent of the first game. Like, if you hide in this corner, throw a brick over there, and stab that dude, you'll be fine.
So it's kind of like with Abby, with the new character, they're showing you kind of the new skill set you can use.
But I was very grateful with the fact that you could dodge. That whole new mechanic.
Yes.
A lot of the fighting mechanics in this game made the game a million times easier to play, especially since it was double the length. So just getting that in the beginning, I was like, oh yes, like I could do a little more with this than the last one. And I still, obviously, we played a little bit as Abby in the beginning. I didn't think that we were going to play nearly as much as we eventually do of her. So I was like, oh, that's cool. She does this. And then you get to play as Ellie. You clear out the supermarket. I was excited that like I could sneak up and stab things. And you had some way of self-defense. If you did mess up and weren't sneaky anymore, you didn't have to just run and gun and hope for the best. You could you had options in this game. And right away from it, you're able to use them.
Definitely.
So I think that pretty much sums up the Jackson days and the death of Joel.
Yeah.
R.I.P. to our
Well,
guy
when we
Joel.
get to that final part, we got to the.
We got to the leg shootout.
Oh,
now.
Right. Okay, so you run into the building. And now I don't know about you, but okay, first off, when I played this game, my girlfriend was over and my brother was watching. None of us were expecting the level of violence. My girlfriend had to leave the room.
Wow.
Me and my brother screaming, like, I don't mean like, ah, no, just like, I let out one loud, and then I just like couldn't move.
Mm-hmm.
So I run down the stairs. I'm obviously like, great, I can still hear that they're beating him. I can save him. Just kidding.
No.
Yeah.
Did you think we were going to have the chance to save him? I mean, obviously from what you've said earlier, leading up to that moment, you guys did. But upon seeing the scene, what did you think was going to happen?
I pretty much had hope till the golf club to the face.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking he could move or Tommy would do something right until she took the final swing to the dome. And they had Ellie on the ground, and it was one of the few times as a player when I'm playing a game, I'm like, I have no idea what they're going to do. And 2, I don't know what I would do. Like, I can't do anything to make anything happen. I just have to watch and hope that I can play on past this level. I don't know if they're going to kill all 3 of us. I don't know what's going on. And I personally really like that when he does kick the bucket, the whole thing goes mute and it's just like ringing to show one, her emotion, but 2, you have no idea what they're talking about. And then they do a good job bringing that up much later in the game. But John, what were you thinking?
Once again, I didn't think Joel was dying at all. I remember I came up with that whole theory of you're going to have to go rescue him. I still thought that when you busted a room, I thought they're going to knock you out. Joel, when you wake up, Joel's not there anymore. I thought that until the moment that they take the golf club to the head. But this scene, and I talked to Shawn about this like right after he watched it. It is by far my favorite scene in video game history. It shot like a movie, done like a movie. The audio where it's like pulsing in and out to show the tense made me tense. The level of graphics once again, but just all of it came together so perfectly. They shot it perfectly. I mean, they filmed it. I guess it's a digital filming process. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was perfect by far. And I don't know if you guys have seen scenes in other games that are even compared to it, but I can't name anything else that had that level of impact on me. And that was that reminiscent of a movie scene in a video game. And it's one of those scenes that I want to show people to be like, look, you say video games are just this or that. Look at this. Look at this. Anyone can play video games because this is truly a work of art. And from that point on, I knew, this game is so different. And I was like 10,000% invested, which I never got to that level in the first game. I don't know why. I liked the story and I was excited, but that scene, hooked me so hard into this game that I mean, as you guys know, I played for 10 hours a day after it. Like, I just played.
No,
And
you
I
grind
flew
it.
through
Well,
it.
it's also
Yeah.
like your second job, but you
Yeah,
are
but
grinding.
it was because I was just so invested in this story, and I think it was because of the way they shot it and the love and the care that they put into it. You don't get that from video games that often anymore. We get games where companies like are just trying to make money, and that's not what they did here. They wanted to make art, and that's what they did. And from that scene on, you just knew that this game is a work of art.
I think the only scene I can think of that was like, oh my god, I'm playing this game and I'm just enthralled is actually in the first one when they're in the college and they're trying to escape and Joel falls over the balcony with the guy and the piece of blade goes through his gut. That's probably the last time where I was like, oh my god, do I have to restart? What happened? But it becomes like an organic part of the game, and I thought that was super cool in that game. But what they do in this game, I'm like, Jesus H Christ! And then when it ends, it's just like black. It's back at the house, and then for a while, I'm like, maybe he's still not dead. I mean, I know he's dead, but maybe they brought him home and he's just brain damaged. But
I kind of thought that too.
Coffin, I'm like, okay, like I'm done. I can't. Yeah. This is wild.
And walking through his house, like seeing all of the wood statues he carved, the guitars everywhere,
the pictures,
like the paint, like I think he had drawings, just like it honestly felt like I lost someone in my actual life going through it.
I just realized that a lot of the stuff in his house you go through in flashbacks.
Yeah.
I just thought about that. The dinosaur book that you can open up. I mean, I'm assuming you guys all did the exploration stuff. When you click the one book, she opens it. I'm like, what does this? I guess you guys talked about dinosaurs. You go on that thing. I was like, God, there was so much attention to detail. I literally just put that together.
Yeah, they did a really good job. I mean, and once again, it's that getting you to care. And now you have a motivation. And they built it so strong because you're like we just said, we're like, when we got to play as Abby, we're like, oh, who the hell is she? You know who she is. And now you have a conviction. Like, the ultimate conviction. And I get, like, I don't know if we want to get into this yet of the choice of taking that leap. But personally, I thought it was the best leap.
Are you saying leap isn't like playing his boat?
But no, killing Joel.
Oh, yeah, killing, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to save this for later or if we want to.
Let's save it for later. Let's just talk about playing the game.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about
choices.
The biggest part of the game.
Controversial guys.
So yeah, once we get through that, I was just like, wow, amazing.
Yeah.
I can't. I want to keep going.
But when you're going through Joel's stuff and you get the revolver, like I said, it felt like I lost someone for real in my life. I said out loud, I'm going to use this revolver to kill every single one of those pieces of shit.
Did you though? But did you choose the revolver every time, Shawn?
Yes, I made sure I kept.
I totally believe you would.
Yeah, I made sure I had 3 bullets left every combat encounter, just in case I ran into someone.
That is investment.
That is
once
true.
I could upgrade all my guns, I was really a big fan of her pistol with the silencer, but that's
Oh no, the silencer carried me through every encounter, but that revolver, I made sure I crafted 2 holsters. It was at the far right. It stayed with 3 bullets at least, and then I used every other weapon.
I was a bow and arrow guy. That bow and arrow was.
So let's talk about that then. You know, the game transitions. Ellie says to Tommy, we have to go out and do something. And if you can't go, that's fine, but I'm leaving tomorrow. And then Tommy leaves.
Yeah.
We follow him. We get to Seattle. The game is beautiful. Seattle is wonderfully recreated. What did you guys think about exploring those conversations with Dina and just seeing a different part of the world and how they dealt with their own quarantine zone?
I thought it was, once again, a nice transition because you have this huge weight on your shoulders and it gets you to calm down emotionally. At least it did for me. With the scenery, the dialogue between Dina and Ellie, it shows you where the relationship is at. And it gave you something to do, right? So it's the first time in the first game or this game that you get to explore a general area without having to follow one linear path. And that made me excited. I was a little nervous that the whole game was gonna be that open, because I was like, this is gonna take me 7 years to finish, because I'm gonna have to check every nook and cranny. But I was excited to go through that process still. Like I was like, oh boy, I went to every building. There's a couple of Easter eggs. First time I cracked the first safe, I was like, yeah. And it was beautifully, like as Shawn said, it was beautifully recreated. And that dialogue, as KG alluded to earlier, of their relationship building while you're walking on a horse, when you're trying to just get a generator to turn on. When one point you go into the church and Dina's talking about a mosque, I was like, oh, this is such a character building, and you get to know these people more, and it gave you a reason to care about Dina in that moment.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that.
Shawn, what are your thoughts on that kind of like open-ish World Seattle part, the like first day or so, I guess?
Yeah. On day one, I had that same feeling John had, where I thought the game was going to be that big the entire time. But there's a trophy for exploring everything in downtown Seattle. So once I did that, I was like, oh, okay, if they gave me a trophy for it, then that means there's not going to be as many areas as big as this one.
Yeah.
So that made me feel better. But I just loved looking around Seattle, especially that area, just going through it. But I had the feeling like Fallout's really notorious with this, where the game is supposed to be super post-apocalyptic, but it still feels like the Great War was 50 years ago. And I started to get that feeling in Seattle, where it's like they're talking about everything going down, but it's been 24 years since the outbreak, so it didn't make sense to me until later in the game. Because the way they talked about it and everything deteriorating, it's like these documents read like they were written within the past couple years, not like they were written 23 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
True. Yeah, that makes sense.
But
I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, and it makes sense later. So once we get to Abby's section,
Yeah,
it all clicks. But up until that, I was like, this is kind of like something that I have an issue with.
Yeah.
But I love how the exploration rewarded you with one of the most beautiful moments in the game, with Ellie singing "Take on Me."
Mm-hmm.
And like that's such a fun song. I love that song. You know, I go to Devils games a lot, and they'll play that in like the in between, and the entire crowd will keep it going way into the play. And then I heard this like haunting version of the song, and I'll never be able to listen to it the same.
no, it's totally, and I don't know if I like that one better, or just as much, or because I was in the mood for it. And then afterwards, you can just play on the guitar, which I thought was awesome. You can just mess around with it.
Did you, as a musician, did you mess around with it and recreate anything?
A little bit. I was playing like simple stuff. I actually, in my settings, I changed it so that when you swiped on the touchpad, you were able to go into like a black and white mode, so that it was a little easier to find stuff.
Mhm.
So in the beginning of the game, I wanted to do that because I wanted to get like 100%. But then I realized whenever you play guitar, if you put that on, you could only use X in order to strum, and it was super like robotic. So I was like, no.
Oh,
I gotta turn that off right now. So I use
Yeah.
that sparingly, just like if I was in a real dark corner and like I had a feeling something down an alley was a item I could pick up, whatever. I thought the guitar part was really cool. I thought it was a little bit corny that she found two guitars, and then eventually you have the one at the end. But like she finds a guitar in the music shop, she finds a guitar at the theater, and also your guitar does not stay in tune that long. So let's just say they've been sitting there over 6 months, and I'm being generous with that. It could be several years. You can't just pick that up, go to the fifth fret, figure out 3 strings, and the whole thing's beautifully tuned. I get you're a savant here, but like, no. That's just not how it's gonna work.
Well, let's just say for gameplay purposes that maybe she tuned it a little longer and they shortened it to just that part.
True. Either way, I thought it was an ingenious thing, and I thought it's cool, and I like that like Mark Hoppus did like a Blink-182 song. You can get real creative.
Yeah.
I actually, like after playing that section, like 2 days later on YouTube, I looked up people playing different songs on the guitar, and it's just like the attention to detail, and their fingers are right too in the game.
Really?
That's cool.
I did this the first day I looked, because in like movies, a lot of people fake it,
Mhm.
and like sometimes they're really bad at faking it, and they're just like putting their finger anywhere. And other times it looks legit, but they took the time, and I think she might have played the song for real in the mocap.
She
they
did.
had like a whole thing.
Yeah, there's a
did?
behind the scenes moment where you see her playing it, and it's her playing the song, and it's her singing the song as well. with Dina's voice actress looking up at her.
It's touching.
Mhm.
I think
I
the days were good though. There were massive comparisons, similarities, and differences between Ellie's and Abby's days, and we'll get to Abby's in a little bit. But for Ellie's stuff, I just thought it was like super engrossing. You guys have touched it a lot. Like, I wouldn't have totally hated if the game was openish world like Seattle's was, but I think it was a good way to get the player into what you're doing because you could explore any way you want. Like the first place I went to the bank and I had the shotgun. And when I went to the bank, I died 4 times. And I was
me
like,
too.
you know what? I don't want this. And I don't know you get the shotgun until the end, but I was like, if the whole game's like this, number one, I got to switch the difficulty or I'm just super trash and I got to clean it up. But you get like thrown like 3 clickers, 2 just regular infected. And then you'll get like the stalkers come a little later, but you could kind of challenge yourself any way you want. I thought if you didn't do certain things, it would close off. I still don't know if like you didn't get the shotgun, if it would just appear later. I don't.
That's what I want to look into as well.
Well,
I have a feeling
was the
it's
bank one of the necessary things you had to go to before you could move on, though?
It was a totally optional thing that if you
Yeah.
wanted to do, you could do.
I also thought their map was very smart.
Yes,
I
I
love
love
I like
that.
how it wasn't just on the screen, and the arrow thing would move. So
Mhm.
sometimes I had to open, close, and like turn around to figure it out. I thought the horse was good. It's just funny how I was so into the stuff that wasn't even combat. I just like liked exploring.
The
I liked
attention to
finding everything.
detail
Mhm.
with everything, it was
And then
just
when
amazing.
you could get into combat, the prone was awesome.
Oh,
I
that was
thought-
a huge game
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. I've been seeing a lot of people too. I don't know if it happened to you, but I'd be like running and I try to dive behind something and instead I like dove backwards and it gave me the perfect opportunity for the headshot. But I'm watching people like do gameplay videos and the combat in this game is off, like it's so incredible. I've seen someone take out their bow, shoot a dude in the knee. He goes to the ground and then she follows up with a headshot. And then as that's happening, she grabs someone else and just like the way you can use bodies as coverage, the prone position, and I guess actually targeting areas, it's just a fine attention to detail that I haven't seen in many games.
Yeah, and it was like I said, it was so refreshing to get that because the first game was so you do this, you do that. You go into a room, you clear it, you move on. You go into a room, you clear it, you move on. And it was just like, okay, we get it. Where this, even if it was you go to this area, you run into some infected, then now you at least have some creativity behind it. Where you could run into some infected and you could kill them almost the way you want to instead of the way they dictate. That was so refreshing. And just being able to lay down and give yourself a moment when there's a bunch of people around you or a bunch of infect around you and you're like, I need to take myself out of this moment and then come back and you stand up and you just start going to work or you start taking, I liked like laying down and taking bow shots from the grass.
That's when it swayed the least, by the way.
Yeah, that
That
which
makes
I
sense.
thought was a great attention to detail. But it was just such a great refresher to the game that made it just easier to play through.
Shawn, did you use more traps or less traps in this game than the first one?
Probably roughly the same. Like I used the most amount of traps in part 1 in winter as Ellie when you're with David at that factory, and that last stretch in the broken down tunnel before you get to the highway. In this game, I use them, I guess, more because I use them in more frequent areas. But I didn't like that the pipe bomb was a mine in this game.
You mean for Ellie, like you had to put it
Yeah,
down?
for Ellie, like you had to put it down and lure people to that area.
John, what do you think about that? Because I'm interested.
I was never a big trap person. Like Shawn, those 2 exact points in the first game is where I used them, and then I didn't really use them besides that unless I really had to. In this one, I knew of certain instances of like if I died and then had to play through something again, and I knew there was a lot of them coming at you, I'd be like, okay, well, I know I could throw this or whatnot, and maybe get a couple out of there. But I was always just like try to do everything as stealthy as possible. Because I like that's my type of gameplay is creep around. That was the fun part. And figure out how I could get through this section without the least amount of just me panicking. So I didn't use the traps that much, which I guess you could use the traps in that instance still. But it just wasn't my go-to thing. Like, I didn't really upgrade that whole list of the traps, where I did upgrade a lot of the other things.
All right, I'm kind of shocked because I was trap god. All I use are those traps.
Trap god.
On like the harder, it's trap god. On the harder difficulties, like when they say you're limited on ammo, they're not kidding.
Did you know you could change that?
What's up?
You could keep it on the hardest difficulty, but make it so that your resources pop up more and your partners are more aggressive.
Well, I'm a boring purist, so I just wanted to suffer and cry the entire time. But there were multiple encounters where I was like, all right, I got 3 dudes over here. They constantly change how they walk. Constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the dogs came, I was like, all right, I'm pro trap. I hated at first that you couldn't throw the bomb, but I love that you could place it because eventually I figured out if I throw a rock over here, I put the bomb over here, and then run around to where the rock was, they start walking, throw the rock again, I can get like 3 people at once. The Molotovs are still probably the best. They're a little OP, and you could make them even stronger. The radius would grow.
Yeah, I love that.
For me personally, human antagonists were the absolute worst people to fight. The infected are kind of annoying, but this game especially, like, there were times where I got hit twice, and I was like, well, I'm at 5% health. I have 1 health pack. I don't have enough stuff to get through. Time to restart. I can't count how many times I've restarted encounters in this game. Because you can finish, but then you have like 2 bullets left, half a health, but like it's just wild. But I noticed Ellie's skill tree is more like sneak based. We kind of mentioned it before. She has more traps, and I think the game really rewards as both characters. When you explore, you're gaining the pills, you get enough, and the parts, you get enough of those. But if you're not looking, you're gonna be screwed. If you're not looking at every corner, it's like a mess to get through.
I had all my pistols upgraded on both characters. My bow was upgraded, my crossbow was upgraded, and I think it was just some of the heavier rifles that I didn't have fully upgraded.
Yeah, and I really didn't use those as much as I wanted.
My first thing to upgrade on every gun was stability, because that when you forget, like at the very beginning of the game, you're just like all over the place, and I'm like, this is gonna be impossible. And then you just upgrade a little bit, and you're like, okay, I could actually shoot people in the head now without having to worry too much. But at the very beginning, I was like, I'm not hitting any headshots. This is gonna be a hard game.
Yeah, it was rough in the beginning.
And then you get along, and it's like, okay, now I at least have a little bit. But as KG was saying earlier, with the changing of paths and the humans, it made it so much more fun. And Shawn alluded to me before we start playing this game that they're gonna try to make you care about the people more that you're fighting. And even like, I know they meant the main antagonist, but even just at all the people, they would find a body and they'd go, oh no, they got blah blah blah, and they'd have like a little dialogue, and they'd be like, oh no, and they're like, find them, and like then they'd try to like fan out. And I was like, that really added another level to that human interaction that you're dealing with. It made me wish that I could drag bodies into bushes or whatever. Because I'd like kill some. There was times where I'd like wait till someone got into high grass to try to kill them so that they wouldn't find the body. But once again, it added that extra level of like, okay, I need to kind of strategize this area and who I want to pick off. Am I taking out the dog first, or am I taking out the guy walking the dog, and so on and so forth.
I always went dog first because then the person stopped.
Yeah, me too.
But speaking of that, I don't know if you noticed, but like when you killed the dog, they'd be like, oh no, Fido.
Yeah.
And then when you played as Abby that first day, you could play with Fido.
Yeah.
Like one of the dogs you played with, I don't know if you noticed it, had the same exact name as like one of the first 5 dogs you kill.
And it's one of the dogs that you kill at the end. When the dog jumps on you and you're Ellie and you just gut it.
Well, that's like the main dog, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's her main dog. But like when they take the dog out of the cage, there's another one you could play with the ball.
You could play
and
fetch.
that was one. That was one you kill as well. So I was like, great, that's awesome. I'm a monster.
When you played fetch, did you throw it over the fence?
No.
Terrible human. Like the first time I threw it, and then the dog comes back, I'm like, well, this is annoying. And then I was like, well, what happens if I throw it over the fence? And I throw it, the dog runs over, the dog cries, and then your character's like, oh, sorry there, bud. And I was like, oh, well. Oh,
I'm a bad person.
I just like that I could throw it out over the fence.
Well, the first time I had to kill a dog, and you shoot it, and it goes, ha! and like die or like whatever, or if you shoot the person, the dog like start like does a little whip. I'm like, wow, I know I'm gonna feel like a horrible person throughout this whole entire game.
Well,
like,
good thing you didn't use the traps on them because they literally blow in half.
Oh,
there's the top half of the pup somewhere, and then the bottom half somewhere else.
I didn't know that was a thing until just now. That is horrible.
Yeah.
Did you use an explosive arrow?
No, I didn't get explosive arrows. I'm a purist, okay? My bow and arrow was pure with just headshots only.
Wait, you never used the explosive?
No, I didn't have any explosive ammunition.
Shawn,
Okay.
Tell him how, because you didn't know it. You didn't do the tree. I did because I'm better.
Yeah.
John, tell him about how great the explosive arrow was.
I gathered a group of people, and then I shot an explosive arrow at them. And this was when Ellie gets her last gun towards the end of the game. I found legs down the street, an arm on a pole, and I saw a dude's spine and rib cage with like some intestines hanging out.
I had no idea there was this level of like
the
detail.
dog. I'm pretty sure was just a pile of fur and blood.
My story plus, I know what I'm upgrading right away.
Definitely. It's awesome.
I'm blowing everyone up.
Especially like when you meet the scars, and that's kind of towards like the end of her playthrough. It's like the middle end of her playthrough, and there's like 3 of them going around a tortured person. I was like, what happens if I just use explosive arrow to the dome? That guy headless. The other 2 lose half their face, and then all the scars are like, I think somebody's here. Well, yeah, just blew up. That one was really hard though, because one thing I struggled to understand was the depth of a level, like how big it actually was.
Yeah.
So I would strategically try to take out 2 or 3 people, and then I didn't realize there was 6 more people, like a few yards ahead. That kind of pissed me off sometimes because like I really took my time to get those 3, and I'm like, well, I got to take another hour to try and get these 5.
I agree, especially that part. That's where I really like. That's where it set in how long some of these sections were.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we talked a lot about gameplay. What about the story of her 3 days?
I love the aspect of she had her hit list basically. She was like, I need to find this, but I know, and then she finds like their pictures, which is very convenient. But she finds like their pictures with their names and whatnot, and a nude. She finds a nude.
Not a nude. It was a lewd. You saw the lady's belly.
It was supposed to be a nude, but it got worn out or something, or blood on it or something.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, her tits were out, but it just conveniently that's where it got worn out.
No, when I looked at the picture, I was just like, what is she posing? This is so, I guess
she was like,
her belly button.
she was like this, but like this area was like
trying to party.
You know, yeah, because
they were star-crossed
the note,
lovers.
the note that was with it was, I hope this holds you over, basically.
Yeah, that's why I was confused that she was showing off her belly button. I was like, what is happening?
Post-apocalyptic belly button gets you going, dude. Like,
bro, when the last thing you saw was a clicker 6 months ago, a belly button will do a lot.
Which, speaking of which, on some of the infected, there was like nipple, and it was very disturbing. I just have to throw that in since we're talking about
Shawn,
this.
It was you that sent the stuff out.
I see the bloater that you like. The reason bloaters are so angry is they got small dick energy.
It just once again, detail was amazing in this game.
And it's detail you didn't know you wanted, but it's good to know.
It was good to have.
You're like, where are all these other microphones? How come they're not here right now?
But I really enjoyed the aspect of like trying to find one person and that basically leading to the next and whatnot, and you're just kind of like trying to pick these people off, but also trying to find Tommy at the same time. Like you had a lot going on. And then the story with Dina just got deeper with finding out all the information about her, and that she's pregnant, and that now you basically need to make sure she doesn't hurt herself for 2 reasons. And then everything that goes from there. I just thought the story, it really built all these extra characters that they kind of interweaved and made you care about them to a certain extent. I know I cared about a lot of them. I was like, oh man, like it's so nice to see that Ellie has friends and this is her squad and whatnot. And then it all goes to shit for a little bit.
Pretty much.
But
yeah,
I'm pretty much in the same boat. I think from just beginning, middle, end, her whole story is really engrossing. I am 1,000% on her side. Like when Abby and her crew kill Joe, I'm like, it's time to kill everybody. Like we are gonna murder them. And you see Ellie kind of giving Tommy flack, and Tommy's like, "Look, he's my brother. Don't tell me how to care about him. I understand. I'm pissed too." Tommy goes. I think we're going to touch on it towards the end, but it's interesting how the roles sort of reverse. How Ellie and Tommy talk to each other at the end. I think she's just a super compelling character, and I didn't really like when people in the reviews were like, "It's a negative game that's heavy and there's no growth." It's definitely heavy. It is by far the heaviest game I think I've played in numerous years. Compared to the first one, the first one's like a daydream cakewalk. I was invested, but I was like, it's not that intense. After only 2 sections, I had to just walk away because the way you kill people, how intense it is, the way she handles herself, like kill after kill. The name escapes me of the one girl she kills in the hospital. Shawn, do you remember her name?
Oh,
the African American girl.
Oh,
I don't remember.
I don't.
She was like Abby's girl. She's a nurse.
Yeah,
They're
I
chasing each
wanted to
other
say it's
down.
Julie or something.
Let's just call her Julie for sake of conversation. But she chases her down, and she's like, "If you don't tell me, I'm going to kill you." Whatever. She's like, "Doesn't matter. I'm dead anyway. I'm in the smoke. How are you not doing this? Oh my God, you're the one. You're not infected." You see on her face though before she goes to swing, she's like, "I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to do it because I've set out on this mission." And then when she gets home, her hands are shaky, and I believe that's when Abby like kind of gets back to them, and then it switches over to that station. But with every kill, I was like, "There's gravity to this. There's weight to this." I was pissed in the beginning, but now I'm like, I kind of want it to be over because she's so angry that hopefully she finds some resolve. And I also like the flashbacks. I think they were a little bit long, but I think they did a good job of building up the relationship between Joel and Ellie that we already thought we knew, but we didn't know the half of it until you get all those back. She goes to like find out who she is, and you see that like the relationship's pretty much done. I didn't realize until halfway through the end of the game that Ellie knows what Joel did, yet will stop at nothing in order to get the revenge for him because she truly cared for him.
Well, we'll talk about that for sure because there's another layer there, and I don't know if you didn't really hit it there, so I don't know if you realized it yet.
Oh, maybe not, but if I didn't, you can drop that on me. But Shawn, what are your thoughts in general about those like first 3 days as Ellie?
I loved them. I don't know if you explored Ellie's little garage house, but you could see pictures, and like it's her, Jesse, and Dina always. So when it's her and Dina going out, it made sense. And then Jesse shows up, and it's like, oh, that's truly like, these are her ride or dies. I loved knowing that Tommy was out there causing mayhem.
Yeah, and I love getting the little snippets.
Yeah, like the little snippets of it, or like an explosion somewhere. And it's like, we don't know who it is. It's just one person. Like, yeah, don't mess with us.
And he's a fantastic shot, apparently, with a sniper.
So I loved all of that. Once Jesse showed up, and I text this to John, I knew he was going to get killed because up until then, Ellie's adventure was going way too easy.
True.
You knew it wasn't going to be Dina because they would have killed her in the beginning. Like if it wasn't Joel being killed, it was going to be Dina. So I kind of had a feeling she was safe. I didn't really plan on us finding Tommy. I thought when we found him, he'd be dead already. And I had a feeling that Jesse was going to be killed. But not the way that he died. That surprised me.
Bullet to the cheek.
Oh,
so dude, I thought everyone was dead once we got to Seattle. Besides, like you, you as an Ellie, I was like, oh, everyone's dying here. No one's making
Jesse justice though with the way they killed him.
Ooh, I don't think so. I mean, like it was
so
quick.
Badass.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad because like it was just so. I mean, he didn't really have a fight. He just ran through the door and was like, bah.
Yeah, he's like, oh my, in the face.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's dead, like 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it did do him justice to show that like he's a great person. He was first person through the door, and that's why he was killed immediately.
Yeah, that's a good angle to look.
Guy. I'm not going.
Second always.
Yeah, you're not body shield.
No way.
But those flashbacks, I think the first major one, that it's her birthday, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the museum.
They go to the museum. I think I cried that entire time. Like, just every moment, I was just like, oh man, that's really nice. Oh, he taught her how to swim. Oh, he pushed her in the water. She got him back.
Legs.
Short hair. And then you're going around the museum, and I know you guys missed this because we talked about it, but
yeah, I'm so pissed.
Putting all the hats on the dinosaurs, and then she goes up to Joel and she goes, oh, look at that. Can't leave out this artifact. Like, just their relationship was so good.
Yeah.
And then finding out which astronaut helmet was going to be the right one to put on.
Yeah. I went to
did
the
play around
first.
with those.
I went to the first one right away. I didn't know
I think I
that.
did the second one.
Boring.
I just was
I
like,
took the
but
third. Put
can
it on
you
the
use
first, and
any?
I took the second.
Or were
You can
able
use
to just-
any one that you want.
Alright.
So
I
you
was
get to
just-
pick from all of them. But
Yeah.
once he says close your eyes and they're sitting in that little capsule, I closed my eyes and I cried.
All right, Shawn, we're on that journey with you.
Yeah, I was just like, this is so well done. But then peeling back the layers and finding out that she knew everything.
It was
She didn't talk
gut-wrenching.
to him. She didn't talk to him for 2 years. And then the night that they do decide to reconnect, he dies the next day. That killed me.
That's
killed
like the worst timing ever.
Killed me.
Well,
And
do
then-
think how she feels. Maybe that's part of the reason
Right,
she
and-
felt
yeah.
like she
Yeah,
had
we'll-
it when
we'll
she goes to
definitely
swing
talk
the
about
hammer
that.
and questions it.
But you walk in,
Uh,
bam, Jesse goes, arms up, don't shoot, let's talk about this. And then you start as Abby. And I like that immediately the first thing we see as Abby is now she's reliving Ellie's nightmares and Ellie's trips of running through that hospital. But Abby goes through and the alarms are blaring. And we find her dead dad. I was just like, oh.
well, no,
Okay.
wait, was that the first
So
thing, or
before-
do you do the
No.
little scene,
You're right.
Which one-
You do
which-
the scene where it shows that
the zebra?
the zebra,
Yeah.
it shows you that like her and her dad are pretty decent people.
Mm-hmm.
But you find out almost immediately, like, I think once you free the zebra, they go, hey doc, the immune
The
girl,
girl,
she's here, we
yeah.
gotta go.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
So you see immediately where Abby's coming from. Did you like playing as Abby?
I loved it. I thought it because it once again it built this world and it made you feel for both sides. When
Mhm.
like at the beginning of playing as Abby, I was disgruntled, right? I was.
How quickly
I
did you
was
get
like,
over it?
I don't want to play with her. You start finding more about her and her family, and then her friends around her, and then you just learn her story. And towards the end of it, I forgot that Ellie was the main character of this game to a certain extent. That like, and I know this is fast forwarding, but towards the end when you have to fight Ellie in the museum as Abby, I'm like, this little bitch, she's got all these weapons. You see her go in her bag, and like if you creep around a corner fast enough, you could see her trying to get her other stuff out. And I was like, not today, like, and I was like now like being Abby and fighting her. But it like that's what they did so wonderfully in this game is they made you feel for the bad guy. Like
Mhm.
So would you say like end of day one you were like, I'm okay
Oh.
with playing as Abby?
hook, line, and sinker. I was like, this is the new character. But I was
Interesting.
just so engrossed in the game that I wasn't even thinking of Ellie at that point necessarily. Even though you had ideas of what's happening, like what's going to be happening on the other side of the line, like what you might be coming up against because of the fact that you played as Ellie, and you know you're going to be walking across this dead body of your friend or that dead body is a friend, and you kind of just knew those things were coming. But also it was exciting to see it from a different perspective and feel it, like feel the emotions from a different perspective.
Yeah.
What about you, KG? Just immediate thoughts of playing as Abby. Were you on board?
My immediate thought, like in the very beginning, I was like, if this is a whole new playable character, I can do it. But like, they got to build this character, and they definitely delivered on the building. But I give credit to John for being invested like from the first day. I was into it, but then when I realized it says like Seattle day 2, and I'm like, oh, you got to do all 3 days. Like, if it's going to be similar to what LA did, it's just now you are this big brute with the biggest biceps in the history of the United States of Apocalypse America, then I guess I can do it. But I think the game and the developers, they really took their time. It could have almost been a whole, like, you could have split part 2 into possibly part 3 if they really wanted. I think
agree.
there's a way, I'm going to kind of bring that up later, that they probably could have done it. But I kind of like that you do all 3 as Ellie. Looking back on it, and you do all 3 as Abby. It took me a little while to get invested, but I like that she plays different. I like that her story is different, and I like that they gave time. Like, they gave a lot of time for her and Owen and his little shawty who got pregnant, but he really shouldn't have, and then he was being a bad dude and cheating with Abby on the boat. That was a total. I was not ready for virtual boobies like that.
No,
Me neither.
Wait, first of all, they weren't just virtual boobies; they were virtual boobies on a layer of chest muscle that I wasn't ready for.
Yeah.
Like I was like, and then I was recording it for a YouTube video, so I was like, do I need to go through and learn how to blur things out?
Oh,
like,
I didn't even think about that.
Fun fact, didn't. I was just like, it's quick enough.
for you.
No one's gonna
Yeah.
no one's gonna see virtual boobies and begin
I
that.
love the way they handled that, but it took me, I think, until like halfway through day 2 of playing as Abby for me to just be okay with it. But I went into almost every major encounter like, I can use all my ammo. I don't care
That's
if I get
exactly
killed.
what I thought,
Like,
because I thought it would be over.
I was like, if she dies, I don't care. Like, well, I don't even want her to live. Like, I'll just be reckless. Who cares?
I don't even want
Like you
to.
could change that. Like you could change the outcome.
Right? Like, I could change the fact that on Ellie day 3, Abby shoots Jesse. Like, I was just like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't care. Go through it. But I think they made a really smart decision in giving her the more violent weapons and play style,
Oh yeah.
because it's immediately just like, hey, forget about whatever she did and go have fun killing people.
And you got to make shivs with her. Like I had to upgrade
Yeah.
that shiv tree. I was like, I
Yeah.
was
It
pissed,
was-
but I was like, oh, nostalgia. But
I loved it because it was such a callback to Joel. Because like doing melee combat with Joel, aggressive. He was shoving heads into walls, stomping faces in,
yeah.
and then you play as Abby, and she's doing the same things. She's
Yeah.
making shivs, and you got to upgrade them so they last more than one hit.
It was wild.
Yeah, and going back to the whole Shawn like wanting to change the outcome. Every time I had to upgrade a weapon, I was like, God damn it, this is gonna make my fight harder in the future. I was like, this is just what am I doing to myself? Like thinking that that's actually gonna make the difficulty of the game change. I was just like, every time I'd upgrade, I'd be like, God, I want to use it. Like, damn
Yeah.
it.
Especially the hunting
second-
pistol.
Yeah. That was a.
Did you
That was
see the
a real-life
damage
weapon.
it could do?
You
Yeah.
blow everybody. It was like almost an
I-
equivalent to an explosive arrow.
Dude, I got a headshot and I went over to the body and it was like in that South Park episode when Britney Spears shoots her face off. You know how she's just lower jaw?
Yeah.
I saw lower jaw and it backflapped like Pac-Man dying.
It was
Like
wild.
it was barely hung on. It was disgusting.
Yeah, I like that you can. They didn't really play similar at all, but I think it was very smart on their point to flesh her out as much as they did. Because me personally, I wouldn't have cared as much if I didn't have to spend as much time with her. It's
Okay.
kind of like you're with someone you hate because you got punished in school or whatever, and you have to sit there for like multiple hours and try to talk to this person. And then eventually, it's like, well, I still may not like you, but I definitely respect what you had to go through, and like I
Right.
understand where you're coming from. This shows for people that are like, Joel shouldn't have died. He was the hero of the first game. Joel's kind of a bad dude.
But
was a
Joel says
smuggler.
it in the first game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he says it clear as day. He's like, we're not. This is what we do. We're not good people.
Like
And you just think he's good because you're following his view the entire time. Where
right.
Abby looks at you guys and is like, you are the enemy. You are the bad person. You killed my dad. You came in here. And thinking back, I was like, wow, I was pretty jacked up when Joel killed all those doctors.
Is it
And then
is
I
it
realized
weird?
how bad it was.
Is it weird that morally, Abby might be the most morally right person that you play as?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's all about the wolves. Like she joins up and is immediately just like, this is what we do now. That's it.
Well,
Like,
that and the-
Owen wants nothing to do with it. And then she just wants to get revenge for her dad dying.
yeah, and
And
then,
then
you
she convinces everyone like, that's it. No, we came here. It's done. Leave them. Let's go.
That's what you hear at the end, right? Of the ring out.
Yeah, I think Owen and Abby were just like, we're done. We killed the guy who killed everyone.
If
Let's
only
just leave.
Ellie listened.
and then on top of it, she only kills one of her friends. Abby kills one person.
Oh,
That
you're right.
like that's emotional. You kill everyone as Ellie. You kill all her friends. You're
Well,
a
not all of them. Tommy
Mo-
kills one of them.
okay, but I mean that group, the Jackson,
Would you kill a pregnant woman?
the Jackson
So that's
squad.
We didn't know. Oh, god damn.
That's
And then
a
guess
two for
what?
one.
Then guess what?
Not that makes up for Tommy's kill.
Yeah.
Not only does Abby not kill your friends, she saves people, or tries to, with the scars. Abby,
loved that.
Holy crap! Abby's the best. Abby's most morally right in this whole entire thing. Wow,
I
that
love
just
that
clicked for me.
callback because the main part of the first game is Joel's redemption through saving this 14-year-old girl, and Abby's whole redemption is saving this teenager boy.
Yeah.
Like I love how similar it is, and it really tries to call back to like Abby's the mirror of Joel. but
Pretty
so
much.
many people couldn't get past that Abby kills
Wow.
Joel.
Well, I think if you can't get past that, then you're not looking at the game. This is gonna sound super narcissistic, but like in like a perspective way. You're not giving it time to breathe. You're just looking at it like an ends to means. Joel's supposed to be the good guy. Joel's supposed to do this. No, this game does a good job of showing that reality is super gray. You don't know who's
Mhm.
right and wrong until you literally go through both perspectives. And they take their time to show you all of Ellie. And even how at the end she's like, what I'm doing isn't really the best. And he harps, or the developers harp on it the best at the end. At the end of the game, I can't speak for you guys, but I was like, no, Ellie, don't go on that adventure. You have your baby.
I
You
agree.
have Dina. Do not pick the map. And then Tommy flips it on her, and he's like, you said we would get the revenge. Although he's pretty worse for wear with that limp and everything. But they needed to let Abby have that arc, and then you have to go and explore all those scars. They were a wild group. You got to cut that dude's face half in half.
Oh
like,
my! And he
give him a
just
nice
keeps
Joker smile.
fighting.
Oh.
Yeah, that dude was massive. That was really big. But for people that didn't like her gameplay, like, I get it, but then you're not, to me, you're not like investing in the entire story. But my question for you two, I'll go John first, and then I want to hear Shawn's thoughts. Would you have rather have it Ellie, Abby, Ellie, Abby, Ellie, Abby, like back and forth, maybe every day or so, or would you keep the 3 days, and then meet back where both days kind of hit? So, John, what do you think first?
I enjoyed the 3 and the 3 because you go through Ellie having that full feeling of this is my redemption, this is what I'm getting, and then you go as Abby and you're like, you learn her story, and then you start feeling that feeling for her. So by the time the end of day 3 comes, you get that full feeling of like, maybe Abby isn't the worst person. So then towards the end, that conflict of feelings comes together of Ellie and all the feelings with that, and then Abby, all the feelings with that, they come together, and you're like, I don't know what to feel, how to feel. Whereas if they did one day, I feel like the feelings would have been so mixed and mangled from the beginning that you would have just been like, okay, I'm kind of invested in this, I'm kind of invested in that, but I'm not getting to the same levels of investment.
True. Shawn, what about you?
I agree completely. I think doing it day by day would have made it very disjointed. You know,
Good word. Good word.
Especially because like Abby's days are so filled. She does a lot in a short amount of time. She does a lot of traveling, whereas Ellie's kind of go here, that's it. All right, and go back. Go here, go back. I think it would kind of muddy things up, especially with the timelines of when Ellie and Abby are in the hospital, because I believe they're both there on day 2.
Mhm.
They're there at similar times, but Abby gets there before Ellie does because that girl's still in one piece.
Mm-hmm. But then her fight with the Rat King happens, and I don't know when in the day that is.
That was a lot.
That was
that was a very intense fight. That was like
While-
Resident Evil-esque.
While we're still on Abby, do you like let's talk about that, because Seattle is mentioned as like ground zero, and that hospital is ground zero. Like Seattle, I guess that's where it first happened, but that hospital is like the first hospital.
Yeah.
And they keep mentioning like, oh, it's really bad, but you go through it and like lights are flickering, and you know there's a couple clickers, but that area had so many mushrooms coming out of it. I was terrified. Like I knew something bad was happening, and I was at that point in the game. It was like 2 a.m, and I was like, I just have to power through it. I guess I have to fight this thing without waking up my entire household.
Yeah.
That was one of those parts where I was like, I died a bunch of times.
I watched your video just to laugh at it, by the way.
And I played on like an easier difficulty than these two because I was trying to create content and like get through it. And I died a bunch of times because I didn't have any ammo. And then
I don't know how you didn't have any ammo. I went into that with a full flame. Do we have the flamethrower at that point?
Yeah.
No, you.
Oh wait.
Abby doesn't get it. You have like your pipe bombs. You have
the pipe bombs.
The 2 rifles. You have
the
a hunting
rifles.
rifle and the pistol. You had some other kind of explosive. A shotgun.
Yeah.
I think you get a shotgun.
Yeah, with incendiary bolts if you upgraded
If you upgraded it.
Didn't have those. I just didn't have it. I came into that fight so ill prepared. But like you're fighting it and you're just, I was in awe of like what it is. It's just this major thing.
Just the thought of it.
The environment was terrifying because you're like running around like these hospital gurneys and like trying to, and then these creatures are crawling off of it. It's like splitting off, and I was just like, this is a nightmare. I don't know who to fight first. Like, do I kill the small one first, or do I protect myself from the big behemoth?
Oh my, yeah, and then it splits into two.
And then it finally ends, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a break after that. Like, because I was exhausted. I was exhausted.
The one I took a walk from, like I literally left my house for 45 minutes, is when you have that whole fight in the hospital is insane. And when you're in the bus and you're trying to get out and then it chases you, I was like, at this point, I'm just going to use every ounce of ammo I have and hope to God I can pick something up. She's pretty, her arms will be able to choke out ammo from people. But the part that I actually had to leave my house from, and I texted both of you guys, is when you are escorting the two scars and you get into the house. And of course, because they're like 5'2", 110 pounds, they can get through the small window. But because you're like the Rock, you can't fit through anything. So you have to fend off the infected in that house. Well, in the hardest difficulty, you get like twice the amount of people, and there are like not two bloaters. Those like giant abomination things. What were they called? Some with an S.
I don't remember.
I'll just say bloaters in the sense of it because I can't figure it out. But there was like a few scatter just run infected. There were like 2 stalkers, 3 clickers, and then 2 of those bloaters. And every time I wanted to jump over through a window.
Shamblers.
Abby would like jump into someone or like punch someone, dodge someone when I needed to jump. I had to do it, no joke, at least 12 times. And when I finally did it, as soon as she crossed through and it like broke out of cinematic, turned the game off, took an hour walk. I was like,
I didn't even blame you.
The stress I was under. Because I was still trying to conserve ammo. And then towards the end, I was like, I'm just going to use everything I have. Hopefully I can find more. Like, there's got to be more to her story anyway.
Did you enjoy her story of just fighting against these scars, or seraphites as they like to be called, but never finding out what their real philosophy is? Like, did you like that?
I like it to a point, because with Ellie, like, Ellie doesn't care about anybody around her. She just wants to kill people, where they actually do a lot of the world building with Abby, because she was in the Fireflies. She's now in the Wolves, and they are mortal enemies with the scars. I could pick up through context clues that they were just like religious freaks that found someone to follow and they just believed what they wanted. Mm-hmm. But I think it was interesting that she helped a defector. She helped 2 people that were like, we're done. Like, we need to think for ourselves, whatever. I just thought it was super genius how they world build through the person you're supposed to hate. So if you weren't paying attention now, you better be paying attention. If you weren't paying attention before, you got to pay attention now. Otherwise, you're going to be completely lost. But it develops her as a character too, because she slowly is like, I was a wolf just to join a group. Like, I really do want to find those fireflies again. And then she tries to do it at the very end. I thought it was pretty good, though. I liked it overall. John, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. I did like finding, like, so there was like certain monuments that you could pick notes off of and read them. I enjoyed that. It was like a wish to the mother.
Yeah.
And I liked a little tidbit. What were the 2 Seraphites' names?
Yara was the older sister, and Lev was the younger brother. So
there was at one point where Lev and Abby are going, they're doing like the high walking thing. Also, I love that Abby had a fear of heights. It made her...
She couldn't lift the whole...
Did you notice that when you look down as her, the camera would zoom in and out and make it worse?
Oh, I noticed. I almost threw up.
I didn't know that.
But I like how Lev was like basically explaining, like, yeah, they took this religion that's supposed to be about peace and nice, and they're twisting it into their own way, so then they can fight and they can do this, and people are abusing it. And I was like, wow, that's really good commentary on just like a lot of religions in general and extremists in those religions. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, good job, guys. Without actually like knocking it over your head, they fed it in there a little bit, and it really humanized that fight, that like the idea of that people are looking for hope in this cruel world. It's a terrifying world, and these people are just the religious people of that world, so they have something to go into. But there was still a sense of religion with the wolves. The fact that they were like every time they'd end a conversation, instead of saying goodbye, they'd be like, "May your death be swift," or what was, I don't even remember their saying, but they'd say like,
that's how they ended it.
Yeah. They'd like, "May your death be swift."
They had like their coat of arms.
Yeah, that was kind of almost a religious-esque thing of like, I hope you, if you're gonna die, that you die quick, and that's my peaceful way of saying goodbye. But it really just humanized these people that you're fighting from both sides. And like KG said, it built that Seattle story so amazingly, to the fact that, like, I know one day, and we're going to talk about it later, that we're going to get the TV show. They could just do a spin-off on Seattle, like, and I would be like, yeah, let's watch how the Seraphites grew, how the wolves grew, so on and so forth. It's so interesting seeing that world and how it culminated.
Yeah, once we get to like day 2 with Abby, that's when I noticed, oh, the reason these people are leaving behind notes and goodbye letters, making it sound like the world is ending now, is because of this war between the wolves and the Seraphites and everything going on. So that's when I realized, like, oh, it's not that it's post-apocalypse. It's not that it's post-apocalypse acting like it's post.
Mhm.
It's just that, like, their world is now ending again.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that does make more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you go to the island and, like, it's literally a baptism by fire, and
Yeah.
Abby and Lev have to choose each other, you know? Just like the moment that really solidified Joel and Ellie's relationship is Joel getting Ellie while that town burns down. And the
Yeah.
moment Abby solidifies her relationship with Lev is escaping from that island on fire.
And having to fight her own people on top
That
of
too.
it.
Killing anyone that came up to them.
I
Yeah.
like that one part where you could swim and you could like take people out that way. It's
Oh,
towards the
yeah.
end when Yana ends up, I think it's Yana, the older sister,
Yara.
she
Yeah.
dies. Or Yara, sorry,
Yeah.
Yara dies. And then you got to get the other one. You're like, we got to go. But then you can swim under and kind of like shark attack people. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, yeah, I was doing it the whole time.
Yeah.
I immediately lost the stealth and I just shot everyone.
Yeah.
But once again, it shows you, like, I didn't think we were ever going to see that island, and then they built this whole island into it, where
No, they
there's
really
like
did.
like their community. It looked like I would be interested to see more about that community in a DLC or a maybe like I wish they had Last of Us comic series or a book series or something.
They did have a short miniseries, but it was about Abby, Ellie's mom, and
Mhm.
the leader of the Fireflies.
I might have to look into it, but like when like a Seraphites graphic novel would be interesting, or just
So
a
interesting.
Seattle, maybe a graphic novel about the war between the wolves and the Seraphites before that, like, or like then the peace, and then maybe them
Mhm.
going back to war. It's so deep and interesting that they were able to build this in a game that necessarily you didn't care about it at the beginning of the game, like, at all, and then you leave it and you're like, wow, that was intriguing, and I got a story out of it that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that they have a character going through a transition and they didn't beat it over your head.
It
With
was
Lev.
very well handled with Lev.
Yes,
I agree.
with Lev.
I like that a lot.
And I think it was beautifully done to fit that into the game, have that support, and not like smash it into your face through the storyline.
They
Mhm.
definitely didn't smash it in your face because it took me until Abby and
Yara or Lev.
Lev.
at this point, I'll just say one of the scars. It took
Okay.
Abby and one of the scars talking about the other one going through her transformation, how she didn't want to be a wife, she wanted to be a warrior. I was like, I get it. But I thought it was done really well the way they do it. It was like
I agree.
that game rewards you so much for just playing and paying attention. Even the trophy system, you get 90% of the trophies just by exploring, if not 100%. I mean, some of them you really got to look for, like the hat one. You had to take your time in that section.
Mhm.
But if you just interact with everything, like you don't have to do something in 20 seconds, and then it's like a time crunch. You don't have to take 100 photos. Like you just play,
Yeah.
you explore, you take in the world, and you get everything out of it that you're putting into it.
So the days come to a verge, the stories all line up, and now we're Abby. We've just shot Jesse. Did you like that boss battle? I know John mentioned it. I loved the fact that you could find Ellie crafting, because the entire time I was just like, yes, that's my girl. Yeah, make that Molotov. Oh man, you killed me. It's okay though.
First time I just let Abby die. I thought the game would end if you let her die.
Interesting.
I just ran
was-
in and she was like, boom, boom, boom. I was like, yep, to the dome. And I'm dead. Oh, wait, I have to do this for real. Okay. And you can tell how they play so different because Abby's just like, I'm going to throw a bottle, knock you in the teeth.
Mhm.
And then Ellie's like, I think in a one-on-one fight, Abby's going to win 9 times out of 10.
Yep.
She's more brutal, more ruthless, and it's at that stage where Ellie has now realized all this violence is like, I had to do it, but I am not as violent as Joel would be, and it's just like not in me. So even though she wants to fight and she's defending herself and she's like cutting her and shooting her, whatever, Abby's going to rip her face off and then be like, okay, I'm done. It was wild.
I love that the only thing that stopped Abby was Lev saying, "She's pregnant, dude."
Yeah, then she was like, well, now, didn't she say something like even the odds or something? I was like, oh my God, she's going to do it. I almost thought she said even better.
I think she might have. Like, she really wanted revenge for Owen and Owen's girlfriend's death.
Very reasonably. Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it took
Owen was her boo.
Yeah, and it took Abby's version of Ellie for her to be like, okay, you know what? You're right. I'm done. We're gone. If I see you again, you're dead.
Yeah, and it was just one of those things that I was that's moment one where I was like, I don't know how to feel anymore. I don't know if I'm happy or if I'm sad. That whole fight when you're fighting as Abby, I don't know if it just shows through my personality that I was full in on Abby at that moment, and I was like, oh crap, but then I was like, oh my God, I forgot I'm fighting Ellie. I don't know how to who do I want to win? I was just nervous the whole time that like maybe we'd see Ellie die. Like I was like, I don't know what to expect anymore. They killed their main character, so anything's possible. And then then she lets her go, and I'm like, is this can't be the end? Like I don't know how to feel. And then it goes to, eventually it goes to the cutscene, and I just get even more confused.
That's like a 2-year jump, right, Shawn? Almost a 2-year jump because they had the baby and it looks oldish.
She's probably like 2 months pregnant when all of Seattle's happening. So I think it's probably close to 2 years. You're right.
The baby looks old. I'm not good at judging babies' ages, especially.
No, the baby looks like it's about 6 months old.
So let's say at least a year.
It's like at least a year and a half.
At least a year removed.
And Ellie still has PTSD.
Yeah.
Which I thought was once again a nice touch, because it leads as we've been talking about this whole time, we get those little bits from Ellie that she doesn't want to be killing people. Like she doesn't. It's not who she is, and then you see that reflection in that little scene.
Did you read her diary updates in that section?
Yes, I don't remember them all, but I remember going through it.
Okay, so there was one where she talked about how she was out hunting a boar, and she killed the boar, or she's about to kill the boar, but she looked at it, and she saw Joel.
Yeah.
And that was almost a section in the game that we played. Like they rendered everything, but you hunting the boar. Like they had the dead boar, the kill shot, and staring at it, just not the actual gameplay section of it.
I think the journal of it does enough because it goes back to that. If you're really looking for it, you'll find it. But you can see like she's happy and she thinks she's happy. And at first, I thought it was like a true flip up where her PTSD was actually
the truth.
Her in the future not doing it. And then when she is in that flashback, I thought that was still reality. Then I realized it wasn't because Tommy shows up.
Okay.
I was really in my head for a second. But how did you guys feel initially when Tommy presents like, this is where they found the girl, let's go get him? What were your initial thoughts, John? We'll start with you.
I was like, what the we got more? I was like, this is it. No, I was like, this is the end of the game though. I don't get what I'm done here. No, I didn't think there was gonna be more. So then I was like, there's no way she's going back out and leaving a good life. That whole time I was like, no way. And then it was like one of those like stereotypical horror movie things when she's walking down the stairs and you're like, no, get back up there, don't you do it, you go. And she's like getting the jacket, she's getting these things, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're just gonna leave her? And then Dina comes down and she's like, no, like don't do it, no. And like I'm like, just listen to her, go back to sleep on it at least. If you're gonna leave in the morning. And then she goes and does it, and I'm like, I'm emotionally a wreck already. I don't need more. And then we get more, and I'm like, I'm glad that we kind of got more.
Shawn, what about you?
I was angry when he showed up because clearly he lost so much. He lost his wife, his leg, and his eye.
Yeah.
Like use the points they give you in the game to buy his character model, and he like can't see out of the eye. It's almost closed.
Yeah.
Like this clearly took too much out of you. Leave it alone. Let it be.
And I think he's so broken that at this point he's like, I have nothing, so
Yeah.
I need to do this. Where Ellie has found what I think Joel always wanted for her, some sort of contentness, happiness. She
Mhm.
has her family. You put the song on, you're dancing around, whatever. If the game ended right there, I honestly would have been fine with it. I would have
agree.
been like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
like it's not okay. I didn't murder this girl, but I've grown between playing through both characters that this really is the ultimate ending that she should want. But I think it's very smart. And I guess people that were like really invested, like all of us were like, don't do that. Don't leave. Oh my God, what are you doing? Put the gun away. Put the backpack off. Take the jacket off. No, why? And then the girl's like, if you leave, we're not going to be here. We jump to the very, very end, which we'll get to in a little bit. They're not there. That's her fault. She did it to herself. It's one of those many themes of this game. It's like, what is revenge really going to get you? Is it really worth it? Even for Joel, look what he did. He shattered their relationship for years. I mean, she would have died, but then, like she said time and again, my life would have meant something. He's broken up about it because he feels like he took something away from her. I really liked how Tommy came in, though. I thought he was a dick. I thought he was super annoying. But I was like, this is a great foil character, how, like, she did it to him. And now
I
he's
agree.
like,
Yeah.
you did it to me. I'm doing it to you. Like, you're selfish. When he just, like, gets in her face, I'm like, damn, you're a scumbag. But then as he's leaving, I'm like,
Yeah. And then I like that,
how
like,
are you?
Ellie's essentially having a panic attack about this, and Dina's just like, get out of my house. I don't ever want to see you again.
Yeah.
I love that because, like, you see that, like, Dina truly cared about Ellie no matter what happened.
Oh, yeah.
But then the worst happens. We're in San Diego?
San Diego.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just somewhere in California.
Yeah,
So they're in
San
California.
something.
We're in Anchorman, and Abby finds the fireflies. Totally thought they were dead. But that was a small section. You know, not really much to discuss there. Just like the fireflies are still alive. Did you guys like that or no?
Well, I was confused, right? Because were they actually like? Because she like you're talking about on the radio, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
We don't know if that's actually the fireflies or if that was that group who just honeydicked her. Maybe they used that as a trap.
Interesting.
That's what
I
I
think it
assumed.
was the Fireflies, but that group that they introduced, it was just another group, I think, based in California. And I know some people are like, why introduce a whole other faction? I think it was just to show that throughout different parts of the globe,
They're there.
you have different groups.
I
Yeah.
agree.
I don't think it was like really much more than that.
Well, I'd hope the fireflies are there. And for what I'm gonna say later, I hope they were. But I was that whole thing of her getting taken. I was like, wow, like that was a short little bit of her story here. And then you go to Ellie, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to deal with these Neanderthals. God damn, they were ruthless.
I
but-
loved fighting them.
Fighting those groups at the end.
Yeah, because they kept. If you ran away too many times, they let you get turned, and then they just kept you on a chain.
Oh, true.
So like
Well,
you could
that's
let them go
true.
loose and just watch the chaos.
I would do that. I always got in
Yeah.
the one like towards the end, I would do the 2 clickers first.
Yeah.
Let the clickers go, and then I would get like the one crazy one and let him run around. That was the only section of the game where I went pretty much full run and gun.
Yeah.
had
There
to.
were so many of those people, and like
They
had
never
the helmets
stopped.
on.
Mhm.
I don't know if that was a creative choice, but I kind of liked it. Like you have your arsenal, you have a fair amount of weapons, you get that nice MP5 at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You could use some strategy, but that where I was like, I also kind of knew like, okay, this adventure's coming to a close. I was pretty generous on not using these bullets. I want to murder some motherfuckers. And then I was just unloading. But she was getting the shit kicked out of her. What about that part where they hang her up and they're like, let's put her in the clicker? I was like, oh my God, what is she going to do? And then she feeds the other guy to him.
Oh, that was
That
great.
was brutal, like disgustingly brutal, but I loved it. Like her vengeance knew no limits, and it was just, I gotta feed you to a clicker. I gotta feed you to a clicker.
And then when she was bit, the guy's like, you're going to turn anyway. I was like, if only you knew, you clown.
Yeah,
If
you
only
just
you
Dummy,
knew.
dummy.
For 1 second, I thought he was Joel's old friend Bill from the first game.
Oh,
That would've
I can
been
Quick
see
second,
it.
I was like, is this Bill? Because if it is, that's wild. Then we have like another 30 hours. I don't know what we're going to do at this point. But then we get to the end. So Shawn, get us going on this end. How do we get to
All
where
right.
we're going?
So you clear out this entire, what I imagine is some celebrities burnt out mansion,
True.
and you free all the people. Like you lead a slave revolt, and they're like, oh yeah, they're down over there on the beaches. They're probably not alive, but they might be there. And we see Abby. I didn't even recognize Abby.
No.
So this entire time, I don't know about you guys, but I thought we're gonna rescue Abby, and the two of us are gonna fight our way out of here because honestly, I don't know how we're getting out.
I was pretty much along the same lines.
You cut her down. She cuts down Lev, and when you watch them walk away, I don't know about you, but I thought that was like shot for shot Joel leaving the hospital room with Ellie.
Kind of, yeah.
And it's just so much of this is reinforced. We had Ellie revisiting the hospital. I think she was there in a nightmare and in real life. Abby, I think, woke up all 3 days from nightmares at the hospital until day 3 when she knew she had Lev. And that's when she walked into the hospital room. But instead of seeing her dead dad on the floor, she walked out into the wilderness and was free. So it's showing you, like, when you get your revenge, the nightmares don't stop. It's only until you find something to fulfill yourself with. And for Abby, it was Lev. But we watch them, and it's not like Joel leaving the hospital at all, because we're now going to execute her. And you get in that fight, and that fight was just intense. Every part of it. It was heavy. I think we talked about the game being heavy and violent, but that fight, just watching it was like watching a 5-year-old walk into a UFC cage.
Yeah, and the 5-year-old won 5 rounds, and then you're like, stop punching the baby in the face. Stop punching the baby in the face. Whatever you do, stop punching the baby in the face.
It was so hard to do. I when you hold her underwater, I wanted to stop pressing buttons. I didn't understand why the game kept making me play.
Yeah, it hurt. It hurt my feelings the whole time, because now at that point, at that point, I was emotionally attached to Abby too. Like, which is amazing that they were able to do that. They were able to take their antagonist villain and make at least one of their players emotionally attached to it. I was like, I don't want her to die, but I don't want Ellie to die. I didn't know who was going to come out of that fight, if anyone. I thought maybe both of them would just keel over at that point because they're both hurting so bad. Ellie gets her fingers bitten off.
And it's just cord hand.
Yeah, it's just the most savage fight, and it all starts. Abby didn't want to do the fight, and Ellie goes full savage mode and puts a blade to Lev's neck and says, "You're fighting me," or "This is happening," and it's just. And once again, Abby's a savage to be bones. Just she was strung up for days and just be able to somehow still get that fight in her. I mean,
cut her a lot, is Ellie.
Good for Abby.
A lot.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, a lot. Yeah.
What were your thoughts, KG?
It's. As soon as it started, I was like, I don't want to do this. I was like, I know Ellie's going to hesitate. I pretty much called it. I was like, she's going to go to that boat. She's going to hesitate. She's going to be a piece of shit. She's going to want to fight her. I know exactly how she's going to do it. And she did. And I'm like, you're a piece of garbage. Why are you doing this? And then as you're fighting, I was like, every punch, it got like heavier. I felt like the character was slower. For some reason, I guess Abby was just on a sick steroid cycle because she could be hung up for days. And you take her off. She's ready to throw haymakers. But like, every punch was heavy. Like Shawn, you said before, you held someone underwater. I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is just like, I'm going to kill this girl. I'm going to feel terrible because I just murdered somebody I was playing with for multiple days. I felt for both characters vehemently. I felt terrible for Ellie and what she went through. I felt bad for Abby and what she went through. And I understood where both characters were coming from and why. Ellie, I think she did it just to justify why she went there. I don't think Ellie could sit with the fact that she went all the way. She murdered all those people. She had Abby in her face. I don't think for some reason it would just be able to sit with her that I let her go. But it's like when she's ready to kill her, doesn't she have the flashback with Joel?
Yeah, and that's when it's finally a happy flashback. Because up until that point, all of her flashbacks were him beaten and bloody. And then that's when we find out the night before he died. Because I think by that point, we'd already seen the flashback where she blows up on him.
Yeah, because I was outside of the hospital.
For knocking that one, but also the game.
The bar?
Yeah, the game starts day 1, but on day 0, Joel knocks that dude out for calling her a lesbian.
Yeah.
And then I think we
That's the
have that
nice.
flashback.
That's the nice term.
Yeah, no, it was hate speech. It was hate speech.
Yeah.
But I think that's when we finally see, like, the night before he died, Ellie said, "I'm still mad at you, but I want to figure this out." Or is that later? I think that's later, actually.
It's even after that.
Yeah, it's after that.
Well, she has some. Maybe she was thinking about that while.
But
she had a nice come to Jesus.
she does have a good moment with him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as she's choking her and she's giving this murder its attempt, that's when she realizes this murder isn't going to fix her.
No.
And then you leave. And I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say we're very happy that Ellie did not kill Abby.
Oh, 100%. I'm in the pro side
Yes.
of both of these games, and I know it was super divisive amongst people, but
those people suck, honestly.
They just don't care
we can
about
say it for the 4
real
people that are going to listen to this. Yeah, all
They
those
don't-
people suck.
Yeah.
They don't care about real storytelling. Like, that's the
Yeah,
thing that they
exactly.
did here. This is, and as I said earlier, this is a work of art. The way they make you feel for all these different people, intertwine different stories. I mean, 3 different settlements, we could say, we got full-on stories for.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they were able to work that in and make you care about each one to a certain extent. And that's a beautiful work that you don't get from just an average video game.
No, it's not possible.
And I feel like a lot of people who did have the anger of them killing off Joel got to that point, that happened, and then stopped playing. They didn't.
I agree.
They didn't follow through with the game. And if you follow through with the game, then you come out and being like, everything was worth it. Everything was worth it. This emotional roller coaster I went on, I after that game, I was exhausted emotionally.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Well,
just
let's
drained.
get to that point. We don't kill Abby. We leave. And Ellie's walking through her field. And I don't know about you, KG, but I got heavy Gladiator vibes.
Yeah, with like the
At the
fingers
end,
over the hay.
She's, putting her hands over the whatever is there. She's
Shout
finally
out to Dive on Geeks Weekly.
check it out. And she walks into the house. And up until this moment, anytime we've had a flashback of Joel that was happy, we played those chords of Future Days. Music was her connection to Joel. And we go to play it, and it just immediately doesn't sound right because, as John mentioned, her fingers are bitten off. And she's now lost this connection to Joel, but we find out day before he's murdered, she says, "I'm still mad at you, but I want to learn how to have you in my life again, and I miss you." And he just does the ultimate dad thing, and he just looks at her and he goes, "I would like that."
Yeah.
And then my mind immediately flashes back to on patrol with Dina, and she's like, "Hey, a bunch of us are going to go out to the frozen lake tonight. You want to join us?" And Ellie's like, "No, I can't. Me and Joel are going to watch a movie tonight." So it's not only do they have that conversation and decide it, but they made plans to actually work on it. And I was a wreck.
Yeah, it was.
I was a mess. And then she leaves because Dina's gone and she pursued her revenge.
And
But
rightfully so. I don't discredit Dina for leaving at all.
I don't.
No,
And that's the game. We've talked about it a lot, but I mean, Jesus, what a game.
It's a lot to unpack, and that ending, I think it like does every character justice, and Ellie kind of gets what she deserves. It
Mhm.
proves the point of like you going on this revenge mission, you lose the connection because you lose these 2 guys over here. You lose the
Mhm.
connection to the person that you want to connect to the most because you're so driven by this thing that at the end of the day isn't really going to help you that much. And of all people, Abby learns it.
Exactly. That's the game is so heavy on what is revenge and what's living with grief. Is it
Yeah.
avenging it or is it moving past it? And obviously, as most sane people will tell you, it's moving past it. And we see that. Tommy's lost everything because he couldn't move past it. Ellie,
Oh yeah.
Ellie was stabbed, bleeding out, lost her fingers, can no longer play guitar. And that's what it took for her to learn that, like, it's just not worth it.
yeah, the whole character development through this game and that arc of being able to, you feel you want the revenge, and then the game teaches you through the most brutal ways that I don't want to do this anymore.
Mhm.
Like, I thought I wanted this, and then you're standing there pushing her head under the water, and you're like, I don't want this. I just want to be done. I I just want to go home. I just want to relax. Why? And you leave going, I'm still hurting. But I'm okay with that now. Like it's coming to that realization that you just have to go through the hurt and be okay with it and learn to live with it, because it's going to be there. It's going to flare up every now and again, but you got to learn to deal with it in a different way than you can't beat it out of someone. You can't hit someone and get the hurt out of you.
They show you.
Yeah.
An example, you can't do that.
there's the story amongst with all the mini stories that are strung along this game. There's just so many mini lessons that you get, and it's done so well.
Yeah, I'd say probably my favorite game of 2020 so far.
It might be my favorite game of the entire PS4 generation.
I will go down and say it's my favorite game ever. Solo single player game. I personally don't have anything other that I could go and say I felt such a connection to, that made me feel in such a way that changed my mind about what video game stories could be. And to the point of this got me excited for so many other things, which I don't know if we want to get into yet, or the option of another video game, but also the show that's coming out. I'm just so excited about possibilities here.
Yeah, there's a lot that can come from it. I'd probably agree with you guys for PS4 is my most hyped game, and it lived up to every inch. It was even way more than I expected, and I was like, I took it in every drop. Definitely the heaviest game I've played in a long time, but probably by far the best game I've played in a while.
I agree wholeheartedly. I don't know when I could replay it again, but I know I want to replay it again.
Oh yeah, I got to take some time. It's like give it a few months.
Yeah, 100%. When I found out that you get like the story plus or whatever, where you get your old stuff, I'm excited to go on and play a harder difficulty, find all the cards, get the trophies. I think I might want to try to get platinum on this, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if I could go through that again. And if so, I'm just gonna have to crack jokes to myself along the way. Like, just fucking wait, you stupid. Like, you're gonna die. Like, I need to like do that just to keep myself cheery going through it, because I'm like, everyone's gonna lose all their happiness. Like, no one. I mean, Ellie doesn't really leave happy, I would say. I mean, she's content, I guess.
I think she leaves at peace. She's not happy. I think,
but
Dina's probably the most at loss from this game.
Yeah.
And then
I could agree with that.
Then Abby might once again be the happiest leaving with Lev. We don't know necessarily. But that's one thing I want to know with you guys. Would you like to see more of an Abby story after this at all? In any extent, whether it's a comic, a show, a game, a DLC, or a full game?
The game would be hard just because I was so invested. Like this game worked for me because I was big. Part one, like this is part two. It's continuation. They're gonna wrap it up, and they wrapped it up really neat. So if they were to tell me anything in a part three or like a Last of Us spinoff type of deal, it would have to be like 10 out of 10, perfect. Otherwise, I feel like you took something that's really good and you just took it, you did it again to get the money. Maybe in a comic or something, you could tell like a nice little wrap up story, but a whole other game, unless they have some like crazy idea that would really work, like, and keep me invested, I don't know about that. I'd probably pass on the game for now, but maybe like a tie-in wrap up comic or something.
Yeah, I think maybe a little 10-hour DLC I wouldn't mind, or possibly just something small to wrap up Abby, just to know like she made it out of California okay.
I got a pitch. I thought of this about long and hard about what I could see for a part 3 and a DLC. So the DLC is kind of like what Shawn said, Abby making it out after that boat, and her finding fireflies. And not just any fireflies, they have science again, they have doctors. And she tells them the story about this girl, what her dad was supposed to do, how he was in the fireflies. And they come to a conclusion that they know the girl's still alive. And that's where the DLC ends. Game 3 picks up. You start out as Abby, you have to go back to Jackson. somehow convince Ellie or talk to Ellie. And now you see Ellie in this point, and her life really hasn't gotten much better. She's not over everything. She still feels like, why am I here? I had a point to be better, to change the world, and that was taken away from me. She's never really dealt with it. She never really dealt with any of her loss, and she decides to go with Abby and go back and basically donate her life. And I don't know the finer stories in between. Obviously, I'm not the story writer here. This is just a pitch. But then you go back. The journey is them, Abby with the journey of Ellie. They grow closer together. Include Lev in there, obviously. But they come as like a trio and they travel back. Maybe they hit some roadblocks along the way. And then maybe it ends with Ellie giving up her life to get the cure. I think that would be the only reasonable, in my mind, the only reasonable way that we could have a part 3. I don't really see much else. And it would bring a final conclusion to the game of her getting to fulfill her destiny.
I think that could definitely, yeah, that's very interesting, and I see where it would go, but I believe that is all we have time for now. We've discussed everything about this game, how we felt about it, and even where it could go from here.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for tuning in. We know this has been a long one. John, where can we find you?
As you can see underneath all of our all of our screens, you can find us on Twitter, Ginger Gorilla. Search Ginger Gorilla Gaming on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter even. They all have that same little beautiful logo. Check it out. You could watch me play through my first run through of The Last of Us 2 on Ginger Gorilla Gaming's YouTube. See all my reactions to the things we've talked about and check that out. What about you, KG? Where can people find you?
Yeah, under, I think, here. I'm pointing at it right there.
Pretty accurate.
KG_Force for Twitter, and then everything else is at KGForce346, or my band's page if you want to check that out, at the official Stonehenge Music. We got our EP out, so go ahead and check that out. It is not too bad. Shawn, what about you?
Oh, I'd like to say it's very good, and none of them have lost their fingers, so they can still play.
Hey.
You can find me at SeanC529. Don't forget to check out KG on Geeks Weekly's Sweaty Dives. And as always, you can find me at the Geeks Weekly YouTube page where I make some videos there. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We very much appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.